Haribo. Okay. Jai Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari. Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari. Yasodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jarada Madhava Kunjabihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Yasodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Yasodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Shirari Jai Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Shirari Jai Lalita Vishaka Lalita Vishaka Shirari Jaya Goranitai 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 Jaya Goranitai Jaya Goranitai 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 Jaya Goranitai Prabhupada Prabhupada Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Jai Jai Gurudev, 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 Jai Gurudev, Jai Jai Gurudev, 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 Jai Gurudev, Jai Gaura Hari Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naranchavam Narottamam Devam Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Murdayat. Nasta Prashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavati Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttamashloke Bhakti Bhagavati Nashtaki. So welcome everyone. Thank you so very much for coming this morning to be here with Srimad Bhagavatam. So I'm welcoming Yashodev, Y-A-H, Yashoda Devi, Tarka Prabhu, Leela Kisheri. So grateful that I can be in your association. And somehow together we get a chance to hear from Srimad Bhagavatam by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. So we're reading today Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 18, text number 7. And Tarka Prabhu, he has it in the chat if anyone wants to follow what's going on here in this verse. So we're reading the verse, and I'll just read the synonym translations, chapter text 7. Harivarshe, in the tract of land known as Harivarsha. Cha, also, a P indeed. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nara Hari Ripena, his form of Nrsimhadev. Ashte is situated. Tat Rupa Grahana Nirmitan. The reason why Lord Krishna, Keshava, assumed the form of Nrsimha, Uttaratra, in the later chapters, Abhidhashyai, I shall describe, Tat, that, Daitam, most pleasing, Rupam, form of the Lord, Mahapurusha Guna Bhajanaha, Prahlad Maharaj, who is the abode of all the good qualities of great personalities, Mahabhagavata, the topmost devotee, Daitya Danava Kula Tirtha Karuna Shila Charitaha, whose activities and characters was so exalted that he delivered all the Daityas, demons, born in his family. Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, of Yavadhana and Ananya Bhakti Yogena, by uninterrupted and unflinching devotional service. Saha, with Tat Varsha Pura Shahari, the inhabitants of Hari Varsha, Upashate, offer obeisance to and worships. Idam, this, cha, and Udaha Rati, chants. Srila Prabhupada's translation and purport. Sukadev Goswami continued. My dear king, Lord Nrsimhadev resides in the tract of land known as Harivarsha. In the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, I shall describe to you how Prahlad Maharaj caused the Lord to assume the form of Nrsimhadev. Prahlad Maharaj, the topmost devotee of the Lord, is a reservoir of all good qualities of great personalities. His character and activities have delivered all the fallen members of his demoniac family. Lord Nrsimhadev is very dear to his exalted personality, to this exalted personality. Thus, Prahlad Maharaj, along with his servants and all the denizens of Harivarsha, worships Lord Nrsimhadev by chanting the following mantra. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Jayadev Goswami's 10 prayers worshiping the incarnations of Lord Krishna, Keshava, contains his name in every stanza. For example, Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare, Keshavadrita Mina Sarira Jai Jagadish Hare, and Keshavadrita Vamana Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare. The word Jagadisha refers to the proprietor of all the universes. His original form is a two-handed form of Lord Krishna standing with a flute in his hands and engaged in tending the cows. As stated in Brahma Samhita, Chintamani Prakashara Chintamani Prakaras Sadum Sadmashu Kalpa Riksha. Used to know this without even looking at it. No, I forgot it. Laksha Vrteshis Rabhir Adipalayantam Lakshmi Shahasra Satasambhana Sevamanam Govindamari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor, who is herding the cows, yielding all desires in abodes built with spiritual gems and surrounded by millions of purpose trees. He's always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune. From this verse, we learn that Govinda or Krishna is Adipurusha, the original person. The Lord has innumerable incarnations, exactly like the innumerable waves of a flowing river. But the original form is Krishna or Keshava. Shukadev Goswami refers to Nrsimha Dev because of Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj was put into great distress by his powerful father, the demon Hiranyakashipu. Apparently helpless before him, Prahlad Maharaj called on the Lord, who immediately assumed the gigantic form of the Shingadev, half lion, half man, to kill the gigantic demon. Although Krishna is the original person, one without a second, he assumes different forms just to satisfy his devotees or to exercise a specific purpose. Therefore, Jayadev Goswami always repeats the name of Keshava, the original personality of Godhead, in his prayers, describing the Lord's different incarnations for different purposes. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnana Shalakaya Chakshur Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swa Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalan Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sakachatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sarabhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sata Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shitatmane Shri Gaura Karna Shakti Bhaktivedanta Namine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Hari Hari. So, my dear friends, Happy New Year. This is my first time connecting with many of you for the new year. And I wanted to do something a little different today. I was in my creative mood and wanted to share something that's a little different. So let's see if this is going to work out. So I created, by the mercy, of course, of my spiritual master, a little PowerPoint. And I hope this works for everyone because I thought, at least for me, It's so nice to connect with Krishna through visuals. Somehow it's bring the words that's spoken in the Bhagavatam even more alive. They're already alive, actually. However, it can, for some, bring the words even more alive um, when we see some pictures of of the Lord. So this is my humble attempt, and this is why I started right on time because I wanted to get finished so that we can have some discussions, some conversations about what is in this verse, because this verse is it's quite amazing stories about the Lord and about the Lord's devotees and how the Lord interacts with his devotees. So let's see. I will now go to share screen. And we are going here. And here we are. And we will go to slideshow. Yep, there we go. And we will go to the beginning. Okay, great. Thank you, Krishna. So this verse, let's look at the verse and let's just kind of look at some pictures to get this amazing a little bit of that. I don't think we can fully do justice because we can never really, really understand who Krishna is. However, sometimes visuals can give us a little bit of an idea. So here, Prabhupada is speaking in this verse that about Krishna as the original person, as one of the points that's being made. Shukadeva Goswami is sharing this and explaining this. And he's also explaining about the purpose of his incarnation. In this case, we are going to look at this particular incarnation, which is Lord Nrsimhadev. And in this text, he's also speaking about the devotion of his devotees, specifically Krishna, specifically Shukadeva Goswami is speaking about Prahlad Maharaj, and in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is referencing Jayadev Goswami. And so we're going to look at these personalities, and then we're going to look at Krishna as this original person. So here we see this picture of Krishna, with Radharani. He's in the spiritual world. And then we know that Krishna expands. He himself never, ever leaves the spiritual world. He's always with his dear, dear devotees, most loved. So many different pastimes, activities. Krishna is with the cowherd boys. Krishna, there's so many different activities that Krishna performs in his own abode. And so he's never having to leave there. And Krishna being God, Krishna, who he is, he can expand himself. So in the Brahma Samhita, we're informed that the Supreme Lord Krishna, he's absolute, he's infallible, he's without beginning, and he expands himself into unlimited forms, anatarupa. This is the meaning of this is the meaning of Krishna, that Krishna is absolute. He's absolute in his pastimes, in his activities, in his rupa, in his form. He's absolute. So Brahma Samhita teaches us, let's see if this is, no, that's not the one. Advaitam Achyutam Anandananda Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Nava Yovanam Cha. So Krishna has unlimited forms. And Bhagavatam compares the innumerable incarnation of the Lord to the rivulets flowing from exhaustible sources of water. So just imagine like a broken dam. If you've ever lived anywhere where the dam breaks and all the water just flows out. Or if you've been in a hurricane and you experience rain beyond what you can even begin to imagine. If ever you've been in any of these kinds of situations, this is just a bit of an example of Krishna's incarnation, right? Krishna's has innumerable different forms, and we can see Krishna expanding a little bit, and some maybe we get a little glimpse of some of those expansions. So there's different kinds of expansions, and we'll talk about that. But what's important is that Krishna is the original person. He's the fountainhead of all the expansions, right? Eta Kamsa Kala Pumsha Krishna Stu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the original. The Chaitanya Charitamrita also mentions Ekale Ishvara Krishna Arasabda Britya. Krishna alone is the supreme personality of Godhead, and all others, not only the living entities, even the various forms of Krishna are his servitors. So that's the beginning of understanding Krishna and in his relationship to his incarnation, in relationship to the devotees, those different living entities that the consciousness, the mood is in terms of the devotees, that we're all servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And these different incarnations, they appear in the material world and they come for specific mission. They come to accomplish specific things. So this is basically just a little synopsis of the incarnations of the Lord. So there's 6 different kinds of incarnations. There is the Purusha avatar, the Leela avatar, the Guna avatar, the Manvantara avatar, Yuga avatar, and the Satyavesha avatars. Leela. So, see, what we're speaking about today in this particular verse is one of the Leela incarnations. So, this is one of the pastimes. This is all about the Lord coming in terms of his expansions in order to perform different pastimes. And so, in this Leela incarnation, we specifically are looking at Lord Nrsimhadev here in this particular verse. And why does Nrsimhadev come? What is the purpose of him taking? Why does Krishna expand into this form of Nrsimhadev? The purpose is to protect the devotees, to annihilate the miscreants, and to establish religious principles. And of course, it's explained in the Bhagavatam that there is no end to the expansions and incarnations of Krishna. So Bhagavatam in the first canto tells us that there is no limit to the incarnation of the Supreme Lord, just like there's no limit to the waves of the ocean. And these are all just beautiful analogies, if you will, or explanations of trying to understand Krishna. It is difficult to understand Krishna. At the same time, Srila Prabhupada, giving us the Srimad Bhagavatam, gives us a glimpse, just a glimpse. So yes, the expansions or the incarnations of the Lord, we're looking at Lord Nrsimhadev. And in the verse, it explains, Narahari Rupena, his form of Nrsimhadev, Daitam is most pleasing. It's the most pleasing Rupam form of the Lord. And that this form came from the tract of land known as Harivarsha. Now, I looked up Harivarsha, and I'm guessing at the end, Tarka could share about that. I tried to find that, and I found, of course, not much, but however, that Harivarsha is definitely different from Bhartvarsha, and they're heavenly denizens that lives in Harivarsha. And of course, this pastime happened in Satya Yuga, I believe, so it's a different Yuga. So Lord Nrsimhadev, so he's an expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the expansion of Lord Vishnu, and he comes for a specific purpose. And that purpose is to protect the devotees. So Prabhupada says in the purport, well, actually in the Devanagari it's explained, Tat Rupa Grahana Nirmitam. So the point that is being made here in this text is the reason why Lord Krishna Keshava assumed the form of Nrsimha. So then the natural question would be, yeah, what is the reason? Why did Krishna take that form? Why did he come, to protect Prahlad Maharaj, his devotee? So we understand that in these Leela incarnations, when the Lord comes in his pastimes, in his pastime activities, he comes in order to protect usually his devotees. And usually he annihilates some miscreant. That's generally what's happening, why the Lord would take different incarnations, different Leela incarnations, different pastimes incarnations. In this particular situation, Lord Nrsimhadev assumed this form. I'm sorry, Krishna assumed this form of Lord Nrsimhadev in order to specifically protect Prahlad. This is a specific situation. His dear devotees called on him. We know that Prahlad Maharaj has beautiful, beautiful prayers in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And these prayers, they glorify the Lord. And they speak about, his relationship with understanding the Lord, his faith in the Lord, his deep, deep affection for the Lord, his deep understanding of his particular relationship. And so the Lord, of course, reciprocates. Krishna is Bhaktavatsal. He reciprocates with his devotees. So here we see in this little, some of my slides that I found, like I said, I was in a creative mood yesterday. And also it helps me to stay kind of focused with what's really going on. So you will see here, Prahlad is saying, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I believe that Bhagavate is not, I don't know. I don't think that's proper. But anyway, it's Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Little thing, but I did notice it. And that was one of the slides that I got that best show a picture of Nrsimhadev and the reason why Krishna came as Nrsimhadev, because of Hiranyakashipu, Prahlad's crazy father, right? So everybody plays a role in Krishna Lila. And of course, Prahlad's father plays a role. He's an important character because he plays this role of being a persecutor. And as you know, in this material world that we live in, we have people that love that role. They love to be persecutors. They love to persecute other people. Unfortunately, in the material world, people persecute other people based on something very temporary. In this pastime, Hiranyakashipu is persecuting Prahlad because he is, of course, envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he has other issues that's based on other lifetimes. And so therefore he, is very unhappy, very angry, very disturbed with his son. So he's the best of the persecutors. He knows how to persecute. His persecution involves violence. And so he's very violent to his son. However, Prahlad, he being a perfect servant of the Supreme Person, of the original person, he being someone a personality that Prabhupada describes as a Mahabhagwat, which means that he's fully focused on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has no distractions. His dedication, his love, his everything is for Srimati Radharani and Krishna. Everything about him. He's embodied this love for Radharani and Krishna. And so he lives that. He embodies it, so he lives it. It's him. It's who he is. Prabhupada explains in the text, and let me. I think I did show that because I thought that was very important. Yeah. So we'll talk first. We'll talk a little bit about Prahlad's personality, Prahlad's character, because this is referenced in the verse. Prabhupada, Shukadev, here we learn in the verse from Shukadev Goswami that Prahlad Mahapurusha Guna Bhajana, he's the abode of all good qualities, great personalities of other Mahabhagavats. So these personalities are passed down, Prabhupada, from the Supreme Lord himself. These great devotees, they come into the world to teach us, to help us. And so here this word comes up, Mahabhagavata, the topmost devotee. The topmost devotee is a person that is fully surrendered to the personality of Godhead. So when we think of topmost devotees, we think of the great, in at least in our line, in the Gaudiya Vaishrama line, think of these devotees that are fully surrendered to the personality of Godhead, fully surrendered. And so then the text goes on to explain Daicha Danava Kula Tirti Karanas Shila Charitaha. So his activities and character was so exalted just by just by who he was, just by the character that he embodied, that he delivered all the demons born in his family. And so here we see this picture of Prahlad teaching his classmates, and many of his classmates were also family members. And because he embodied this love of Krishna, he's able to simply bring the message of the Lord. And for him, he was always dancing and chanting, Prahlad Maharaj. He was teaching. He taught them philosophy, and he also taught them how to chant and dance. And that's what Srila Prabhupada brought to us. He brought us philosophy, and he also taught us how to chant and dance with the holy names of the Lord. And then this last point about Prahlad is Avyavadhana Ananya Bhakti Yogena, that his activities were uninterrupted and unflinching devotional service. And this is all here in the purport. I just made it into like a visual because it's easier in many ways for myself. So uninterrupted, unflinching devotional service. And that's we learn in the Nectar of Devotion, Ahoitakia Pratyata, Yeyatma Supersidity. I believe that's the verse. I'm not something like that. That's a verse. I know Ahoitakia Pratyata, uninterrupted, unflinching devotional service. He was fully, totally dedicated to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so when someone is fully absorbed and immersed in the Lord, then that person is able to give the Lord to whomever that they meet, because that's as they embody that, right? And so Prahlad Maharaj, he wasn't ever, and in this world today, we hear a lot about victimhood, people being victims, right? And I know that's something that I have a study group on Monday nights, and we one of the books that we're studying is about this mood of being a victim. That's part of it, is how people, they become, they have this mentality um, when things happen that they might find uncomfortable, they become victims. And sometimes this starts very young, from childhood, which is why Srila Prabhupada says that this knowledge of Krishna consciousness needs to be taught from a very early age, even before the womb. In our devotee family, with our families, we know that the parents, they start reading to the child in the womb, and they share chanting and dancing to the child in the womb. They play, kirtan to the child in the womb. So they start nurturing the child before the child even enters into this planet. And Prabhupada says that's the way to cultivate Krishna consciousness. Now, of course, we've seen that there have been children that have gone back to has ventured into wanting to understand material energy. Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, I believe, the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that this divine energy of mine is very difficult to overcome. And so even though one may have this knowledge, may receive this knowledge even in childhood or prior to childhood, still material energy is very difficult. And so Prahlad Maharaj, he's an example of someone that received this knowledge even as a child in the womb. of course, from Narada Muni. And so this was something, this knowledge about the Lord, this faith that was embedded in his whole being, was something that he continued to live, even though he continued um, to reflect to others, even though he was also in an environment that was not conducive to him uh, uh, growing in his devotion. As we said, he had a father that totally did not accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead, did not want to accept that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. That did not deter Prahlad Maharaj. That did not change the fact that Prahlad Maharaj is a devotee of the Lord. So Prahlad, even though he went through so many uncomfortable, inconvenient, violent situations from his father, in modern terms, I guess, I mean, Hiranyakashipu would be known as a abusive father, even more than an abusive father. He was ridiculously violent. But Prahlad Maharaj, he never became a victim. He didn't see that situation as something that he was to um, victimize himself. Oh, I'm no good. Oh, I'm being thrown into, well pits with snakes, and I'm old. How's it that my father did all these horrible things to me? He didn't have that mood that we see today, that many people in the world are struggling with. There's so much emphasis today on how parents have been abusive to children, and children are just absorbed in that, where we have the largest suicide today in our society among the youth, because they just can't accept that perhaps, yes, maybe they have gone through some abusive situation, because their mind is so much intoxicated by blaming others. Then they cannot get out of that. So that creates that victimhood mentality, which leads into depression, which leads into suicide. But we see this example of Prahlad Maharaj, that the things he went through. I don't know if any parent, even in that horrible Kali Yuga, people that have parenting styles that are violent. It's not so. It's very rare to find parents that will do all the kind of things that Hiranyakashipu did to Prahlad. But Prahlad, because he had faith, because he was unflinching, Prabhupada says, uninterrupted in his devotional service. And what was his devotional service? I heard yesterday, the other day, share that with one devotee. So there's 9 processes, and Prahlad was practicing almost all of them. He was remembering Krishna all the time. He was praying Vandanam. He was all the different processes of devotional service. He was practically doing all of them. And so in this way, Prahlad Maharaj is glorious. He's known as a Mahajan. He's known as a Mahabhagavata because he's that example. Now, of course, as we understand, we cannot be like Prahlad. At least I am not Prahlad. I don't see that I can be like Prahlad Maharaj, even though it's possible. But I don't see that, only because I may still be caught in Krishna's external energies, Krishna's fragmental energy. I may still somehow, that verse still that verse from Bhagavad Gita, that this material energy of mine is so difficult to overcome. I may still be caught in that victimhood of thinking I can't, it's difficult to overcome. It's difficult to overcome. It is difficult to overcome. Krishna says that, but he also says, but it can be, just simply by practice, simply by practicing. And so what does practice mean? One of the greatest ways to practice developing this uninterrupted and unflinching devotional service is to simply hear Srimad Bhagavatam. There's so much benefit by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, so these are just quickly some of the qualities of Prahlad. He possessed all good qualities. He was determined, Satyasandaha. He was determined to understand the absolute truth, no matter what happened. That was his, he was, on that track. Nothing could deter him. No distractions. He had full control over his senses and his mind. He was very kind to every living entity, just like the super soul within our hearts is kind to all of us, all the living entities, 8,400,000 species, whatever it is, super soul is there. He was the friend of everyone. He was respectable to his elders. He was very obedient, and he always acted like a menial servant. He was very kind, like a father to the poor people. To the equals, he was affectionate, like a sympathetic brother. And he considered his teachers, his spiritual masters, and older God brothers to be as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just imagine. I mean, this we hear all the time. And to embody these qualities, um, at least for me, I'm like, Krishna, okay, I'm praying. I know that, with faith, like Prahlad, you will definitely facilitate me with those qualities. However, it's like I'm a work in progress, right? And he was completely free from unnatural pride. So this is the quality that I believe is most important, is to become free from that pride that comes from either having good education. Means these days, what's a good education? I don't know. Probably in a good education may mean some university degrees, riches, okay, wealthy people that lose that wealth anyway because, they get old and they die. Beauty, only Krishna is the most beautiful. No one can be more beautiful than Krishna. Aristocracy, that is also very temporary in the material world. And so these things do give us some pride. And Prahlad was free from that. And these are some of the qualities that made Prahlad Maharaj so dear to Nrsingadev, why Nrsingadev would come to protect him. So in the text, Srila Prabhupada also mentions, or maybe Shukadev Goswami, maybe this is Devanagari, the verse, this is part of the verse, that the inhabitants, Prahlad, as well as the inhabitants, everybody, so collectively, the people from Harivarsha, this particular place, particular part, yeah, particular, I can't speak so much about that, but Harivarsha is definitely a place. They offer obeisance and they worship Sringadev and they chant. It's what they do collectively together. And so that is definitely what Srila Prabhupada came to help us to understand how to collectively uh, worship the Lord and collectively chant. This is prerequisite for becoming a great devotee like Prahlad Maharaj. And then in the purport, and this is just brief, Prabhupada mentions Jayadev Goswami. So Jayadev Goswami is a very great devotee. He's quoted quite a lot by some of the different acharyas in terms of he is a poet, and he has many wonderful pastimes in relationship to his writings. We know that he wrote the Gita Govinda, and in that Gita Govinda, one of the things that's mentioned is that in the prayers, in the 10 prayers that he wrote, worshiping the incarnation of Lord Krishna, Keshava is always in this every stanza, in every verse. And yeah, this is mentioned, I believe this was mentioned before, where he's glorifying Lord Nrsingadev, Keshava Drita Naraharupa Jaya Jagadishare. And so this is from Srila Prabhupada. This word Jagadish refers to the proprietor of all the universes. And at the same time, simultaneously one and different, it's important to remember, Chinta Veda Veda Tattva, that his original form is the two-handed form of Lord Krishna, standing with a flute in his hands and engaged in tending the cows. So Jayadev Goswami, there's many, that's the pastime that I was thinking about with him that caught my attention. And I think, yeah, I did, was this pastime uh, of him. I mean, he wrote many beautiful, beautiful songs, and but there's this beautiful pastime that it's just nice to hear something about these great devotees that glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is a little bit of a story. One day, Jayadeva Goswami was composing a particularly sensitive section of the Gita Govinda, describing Krishna's relationship with the gopis headed by Radharani. He meditated deeply on what he had written and became concerned that he had perhaps gone too far in describing this exalted character of the gopis. What he had written seemed to represent Krishna's position as being, in a sense, subordinate to that of the gopis. So, of course, he had some concern. And yet, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How can he be subordinate to the gopis? So he had been inspired to write a line stating that Krishna bows down to touch the feet of Sri Radha, but his hand shrank on the page. He hesitated, thinking, how can I commit such an idea to writing? So he questioned himself, right? We all do that sometimes. Our internal dialogue sometimes tell us, don't do something when maybe Paramatma might be giving us a different instruction. How can I have the audacity to put such a thing in black and white? At that time, he decided to go bathe in the Ganges in hopes that perhaps some inspiration would come to him. Jayadeva Goswami went off to take his afternoon bath, leaving his wife Padmavati behind to cook the offering for the deities. While he was away, Krishna arrived at his house in the dress of Jayadeva. Krishna went over to Jayadev's writing desk and there found the palm leaves that he was writing on, that he was writing the Gita Govinda on. So Krishna picked up Jayadev's pen and wrote the verse with the line, Dehi Palava Murdan, where it says, Krishna bows down his head to the lotus feet of Sri Radha. With this, Krishna, disguised as Jayadev, sat down and took the prasadam prepared by Padmavati. After finishing his prasadam, Krishna stepped outside and vanished. Just at that time, Jayadev returned from bathing at the Ganges. When he asked about prasadam, his wife was perplexed. When she told Jayadev what had happened, Jayadev was astonished. He went over to his book and saw that in wet ink, the verse he had thought of writing before he had gone to bathe in the Ganges was written. Krishna bowed down his head to the lotus feet of Sri Radha. Upon seeing that verse, he said to Padmavati, it is a miracle. See here, I told you I was reluctant to write what I've written here exactly as I thought. He was reluctant, but it was written. So tears of ecstasy flowed like rivers from his eyes as he understood the mystery of what had transpired. Padmavati, he said, you are most fortunate. Krishna himself has written the line, Dehi Padapalavam Udaram, and accepted prasadam from your own hand. So, so many of the acharyas has written different stories about Jayadev. And Jayadev, of course, as we said, he wrote the Gita Govinda, and in that, there are many different, I just put that in this little slide because just to share how he had this, what Prabhupada is saying in the purport, that in every verse of this particular song, he referred to Krishna as Keshava, O Keshava, O Lord of the universe. And Keshava, of course, is Krishna in his two-handed form. So I'm not going to go into that. You can find that song. It's a beautiful song that describes all the incarnations of the Lord. However, he's referencing Lord Keshava, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, with his flute, and then he's speaking about the different incarnations. And then in the verse, Prabhupada also mentions this this verse from the Brahma Samhita. I worship Govinda. I chanted that verse already. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor who is tending the cows, yielding all desires in a bows filled with spiritual gems and surrounded by millions of purpose trees. He's always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune. And so from this verse, we learn that Govinda or Krishna is the Adipusha, the original person. Back to what this verse is about, to remind us. The Lord has innumerable incarnations, exactly like the innumerable waves of flowing rivers, but the original form is Krishna or Keshava, Krishna, Supreme Lord. And so here we close. I believe this is my last slide. Although Krishna is the original person, one without a second, he assumes different forms just to satisfy his devotees, like Prahlad Maharaj, and to execute a specific purpose. He wanted to annihilate the demon Hiranyakashipu, because Hiranyakashipu was creating too much disturbance, and especially disturbance for his devotees. Krishna does not tolerate offending his devotees. And back to Jaidev Goswami, who Prabhupada mentions here, he always repeats the name of Keshava, the original personality of Godhead, in his prayers. And in his prayers, he describes the Lord's different incarnations for different purposes. This is what Prabhupada is referencing in the verse. He's glorifying actually Jaidev Goswami for knowing and understanding that Krishna is the original person. And so for me, these are some of the lessons that I got from this verse, is that Krishna is the most compassionate. He assumes different forms to protect his devotees, that by hearing submissively, by praying, by having some personal prayer, and that simply by these transcendental qualities, Prahlad was able to attract the attention of the Lord, which is not possible by any amount of self-motivated austerities and penance. And that the Lord is easily pleased by simple and straightforward devotional qualities. But not any amount of artificial and complicated gymnastics will not attract his attention. He's the closest observer of what is going on in our minds, and he can never be cheated. The sooner we come to terms with this truth, the sooner we can start acting in the right way, following the footsteps of Prahlad Maharaj. So that lesson I actually took from Srila Prabhupada. My humble prayers to the lotus feet of Lord's pure devotee Sri Prahlad is to bestow upon me the qualifications to possess these transcendental qualities so that I can become a devotee in the real sense, which for me means to become present to when I'm being a persecutor, to become present to when I'm being a victim, and to become more of a faithful, loving servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, my dear friends, I believe that's the end of this little presentation, and I think we have a few minutes. If you have some discussion, we can have some discussions, or you can, share your realizations. Thank you very much.
Haribol, Rajulila Mantaji, thank you so much.
Haribol, Prabhu.
You're sharing all these key verses, these very popular verses, such wonderful verses. It's like eating breakfast through the ears, hearing about Prahlad and about the different kinds of avatars. And I really appreciate your dissection of the Sanskrit. This helps us to value our understanding of the Lord and the Lord's devotees so much more. So thank you for walking us through the healthy breakfast of hearing and chanting about the glories of Krishna.
Thank you so much, Yashadev Prabhu. Thank you for engaging me. And thank you for, you're the Sanskrit Acharya, and just for me to put that kind of in visual helps me so much. Thank you. Yeah. Anyone else have any reflections that you may want to share? Like how, in terms of like Krishna being the original person and his incarnations, it's just so amazing how the Lord, expands himself simply to care for the devotees. I was reading the day before about Akura, and Akura, he was glorifying the Lord. Krishna. Yashadev, you have something, bro?
Well, I want to let someone else speak if they'd like to, but I do also have a question about what you said about Prahlad Maharaj and how he never became a victim. And I'm wondering how you, in your many years of experience, help to balance, encouraging someone to not become a victim, but also rectifying a problem and seeking justice for those who deserve it. How do you balance those sort of roles?
Yeah, using the example of Prahlad, of course, prayer, that's one of the first ways, right, is to really once we realize that we're being a victim, is to take shelter of the Lord. And one of the ways to take shelter of the Lord is through prayer. It doesn't mean that we don't express, just like Hiranyakashipu was, just so crazily abusive. And what did Prahlad do? He called out to Krishna, right? He called out, and so Krishna came. So it's not that Prahlad didn't use his voice, but he just went to the original person that can help, the only person that ultimately can help. And so that's our first go-to when we're in that state of, when we're conscious, when we're Krishna conscious, our first go-to would be to go to Krishna because, he arranges everything anyway, whatever unfortunate situations that may come in our lives, that's arranged by Krishna. Everything is arranged by Krishna. There's a verse that I was looking at this morning. That's such a sweet verse in the Bhagavad Gita. It says that, this verse, this verse, of course, Mata Parantaparam Nanyat Kanchit Ashti Dananjaya. So that verse says, O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me, as pearls are strung on a thread. So everything rests on Krishna. Krishna, although he's not really, I mean, he creates this external energy, and he understands that it's difficult. It's difficult for us to, cross beyond this external energy. At the same time, um, once we start understanding that we're being a victim, that's the first thing, is to have the awareness of when we're being a victim, and then to be able to share that with someone, especially to a trusted person, and to remember that everything is arranged by the Lord ultimately. And that's sometimes, getting to that realization, there's a gap, right? In the gap of being a victim and getting to the realization, okay, Krishna arranged this in my life. In that gap, that's where the practice comes. And in that practice, what I put in that practice often is prayer, and patience to wait and know. And it doesn't mean that the emotion of that comes, the feelings that comes with being a victim will just go away. No, sometimes they stay for some time. However, the bigger picture of that, or the umbrella, is that I'm aware that I'm feeling what I'm feeling. Um, However, Krishna's got my back, and I know that ultimately. Ultimately, I just got to go through whatever it is that I got to go through in that gap period. Ultimately, Krishna has my back. And I might not have that realization as deep as Prahlad Maharaj does. However, by the mercy of my spiritual master and Srila Prabhupada and Bhagavatam and chanting, I do have a tiny bit of that realization. Krishna's got our back. So I don't know. Did that answer you, Prabhu?
Yes, of course. So nice to remember Krishna in that way.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Leela Kishori Mataji has her hand up.
All right. Harbo, Leela.
Haribo, Mataji, thank you so much for a wonderful, wonderful class and such a creative presentation. And I was thinking that in class the other day at the end, Jagannath Pandit was telling us a pastime of Srila Prabhupada, that some of the devotees were being distracted by children when he was giving classes. And they said, can the children have a separate class? And he said, yeah, but it's really good for them to hear the Sanskrit and to hear this sound vibration, to hear this, because it's penetrating even when we don't know it. And I was just thinking too, when you were talking about the victims, and we hear so much these days about adverse childhood experiences and how they can affect you for your whole life. And so how important is it to give children some understanding of Krishna consciousness? Because at some point in everyone's life, and Prahlad's, it was really early, he was such a little kid, and suffering doesn't, he suffered. It's not like he was dancing through all this stuff. When you read his story, they were doing horrible things to this little boy, but he knew that Krishna had him and he had Krishna. And so how important is it for us to give children some understanding? Because at some point in everyone's life, it comes down to you and Krishna. Like, there's nobody else, like you said, having your back or holding you up, and if you don't have that, being a victim might be as good as it gets for you. Being bitter and resentful and all sorts of other things may come along with that. And I loved when you talked about the dam breaking and the water flowing, when it said in the purple, like water flowing, and you talked about it, and like a river and flood. We're having floods now where I am in South Jersey, and places, it overwhelms things. Like, it just takes over, just moves things out of the way, just, changes everything. And I thought about it that way, that, in all of these different incarnations and expansions, Krishna just addresses everything and changes everything and passes over it, under it, or water will just make a way, get things out of the way, go under things, go around things. Sometimes you don't see a river for miles, but it's still flowing, and it gets to where it's going to go. So just really, really beautiful. And thank you for taking the time to put together this beautiful visual presentation, because it makes it not only more palatable, but like yesterday said, more digestible. Like, you can get it, you can grasp it in ways that maybe you can't by just hearing. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And yeah, this was like a delicious, wonderful, delightful prasad breakfast, just really, where it's just amazing to the taste, and you want more. So thank you.
Thank you for your kind encouragement, Leela. And thank you for, you always have such deep realizations of material energy, as well as how the Lord plays his role, what the Lord does in the material energy. You have such a clear understanding of that. And I appreciate that always. Thank you so much. The thing about being a victim is to be careful to not become, at least I'm saying this to myself, to not become a persecutor. Because usually that's what happens. Either we're a victim, and an internal dialogue with ourselves can go two ways. Is we are victims to whatever the external circumstance might have been that, that affected us in the material world, in this material world. And we become depressed by whatever that situation is. And that depression just develops, to a place where, as I said before, people end up killing themselves because they just can't deal with it. How long to just stay being a victim is very unhealthy, very unhealthy. Then the other track that we can walk with that is to be a persecutor, to just be so angry that we're just persecuting everyone. Everyone is to be blamed for everything that happened in our lives, And then to be in that consciousness, like Hiranyakashipu, he was so overwhelmed with being a persecutor that he all he could think of was, kill his son, kill everybody that did not fulfill his desire as a controller, because persecutors usually are controllers. And so what's a remedy for that in a material sense? In a material sense, a remedy to help us to move through that in the gap is to become like a co-creator, become a co-creator with Krishna. And so that was one of the reasons why I thought yesterday, I'm just going to absorb myself today and just working on a PowerPoint for this presentation. I know it's not what we normally do. And I thought, I hope that works. This is okay for yesterday, but I needed to do that to co-create with Krishna. Krishna sent me the pictures. I had to really be thoughtful and really be connected with Krishna. Send me the picture to explain how you are the original person. It's like being a critic. We have that ability to change our consciousness, and so that's given to us by the Lord. He didn't just let us land in material energy with no protection. You know, especially us that have knowledge from Srimad Bhagavatam, we know we have hope. And not to say that those feelings won't be there from things that have happened in our lives, but not to dwell on them, not to stay in them, move on, move on. And yeah, share it with others. Share it with others how to move on. And like you said, Leela, with the children, especially with the children, it's so important. Even if we think we are victims, don't pass that victimhood mentality down to the kids. Even if we're persecutors, don't pass it down, because that's generational um, disturbance on the planet that we're creating. So as devotees, we know better. We have a different consciousness. We train our children differently. But our duty is to help those that don't know. That's our service to the Lord. Like Prahlad. Tarka Prabhu, we haven't heard from you.
Hare Krishna. Part of the reason you have not heard from me is that I'm really sick with a raging fever, and I'm extremely nauseous and struggling to not toss my cookies on my bed. But
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to hear that, Prabhu. So sorry to hear your body is struggling.
Yeah, I do. It's hard to speak, but I do want to express my appreciation for your class, and I really like classes with a PowerPoint presentation. It means we get to engage more of our senses in the process of relishing Srimad Bhagavatam. Mother Pramika Shori also has done some wonderful PowerPoint presentations, and it just makes everything so much more wonderful. So I'm getting the opportunity to drink in the medicine to cure me of this illness, the medicine of Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm drinking in the medicine through my ears and my eyes as well. And so I thank you for facilitating that. And I'm just gonna slip away here because I'm really in terrible shape here, and I'm on the brink. Hare
Yeah.
Krishna.
Prabhu, did you test for COVID?
You know, I did not. All of my tests are expired. We couldn't get a hold of a test that was not expired. I got one from Drew that was also expired. Um, I'm not sure what it is that I've got, but I have been sick with some respiratory thing for over 2 months. It has been dragging on, and then in the past few days, I developed a really bad fever, and I just so sick. I didn't want to live anymore. It was so horrible, really painful. I don't know what this is, but whatever it is, it's really severe, really bad.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. When the body's sick, it's just so difficult. And I'm so sad that you're having to go through that. Anyway, please rest, drink lots of liquid, as some of the medicine, and prayerfully we can find you a COVID test that's valid, that you can take. I mean, I don't know. Even when you have COVID, it's still like you got to go through it. That gap of going through stuff is just what we got to go through. Yeah, but yeah, that test did help me to when I realized I didn't know what was happening for me until I took that test, and then I knew, okay, this is COVID. I got to deal with this. Got to pray and deal with it at the same time. So prayerfully, your wife is giving you different things. I had a lot of ginger tea, lots of ginger tea.
Yeah, everyone's sick over here. Shamagoparupa, Prema. We've all been fighting something for It's actually been going on for more than 2 months. I've never seen anything like this. It's remarkable. But we're carrying on. Shamagoparupa is amazing. She in spite of all kinds of difficulties, she always remains my life support system.
Mm.
Um, I owe her my life. There's no question. Without her, I would have expired a long time ago.
You're very fortunate to have such a wonderful devotee caring for you. If it would help you any, I can make some ginger tea and send it to you with aloe vera in a thermos. Will that be helpful at all?
I've got plenty of ginger tea. I've been consuming lots of ginger, which has been helpful. But yeah, we're well set that way. But thank you very much.
Okay, and I see here I just want to share this. Sometimes they extend the expiration for a year for the tax from Jagannath Pandit. He said even if it's expired, you can still, it might still be good for you. Lauren, you might still be able to. It's not, okay, let me get my words correctly. It doesn't mean that because it's expired that it's expired, that you can still use it for a year. And then Lauren says elderberry syrup is also good. Yeah, I took a lot of that. It's supposed to strengthen your immune system. I took so much elderberry. So thank you. Yeah, that's a thing to share. And then yeah, I think those are for you, Tarka Prabhu. And Lauren, Hare Krishna Mother Raji Leela, I'm so glad I joined class today. That PowerPoint was brilliant, and I loved you tied to the drummer triangle. We're studying that book, the drummer triangle, into Prahlad Maharaj's. Okay, let's see, sorry. Into Prahlad Maharaj's, into Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj was put into great distress by his powerful father, the demon. I think that comes from you, Chapo. Okay, so I feel like Krishna consciousness can help us transcend victim mentality. From my current understanding, everything comes from Krishna, even certain situations. So trying to see that and using these opportunities to come closer to the Lord may help me or everyone else or anyone else leave that victimhood. That's just my little reflection. Thank you so much for that reflection, Lauren. Yeah, becoming Krishna conscious. That is, yeah, that is our glorious gift that's been given to us by Srila Prabhupada. And one of the ways to become Krishna conscious is just to hear Bhagavatam, hear Srimad Bhagavatam in a submissive way. And definitely, we will make spiritual advancement. Okay, my dear friends, it's 12 minutes after the hour. And so thank you all very much. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it so much. And yeah, it's great mercy to be able to be with all of you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yes, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Thank you. Vanchakalpa Trubhascha. Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha. Patitanam Pavanebhyo. Vaishnavebhyo. Namo Namaha. Haribol. Yeah, may I know who that is? Y-A-H? Y-A-H.
Hi, Krishna. How are you today?
Uh, I'm grateful. Who is this beautiful person?
I am in Atlanta and I just came to Bhakti within July and I will be at the farm. I'll be transitioning onto the farm February 1st.
Wow.
Yes.
That is so exciting. I'm so happy to hear that. I'll be happy to meet you. You're such a beautiful soul.
Thank you.
What is your name?
My name is Y.
Why?
Yes.
Oh, would you be willing to spell that for me?
It's just the letter Y.
Ah, that is so beautiful. Mysterious.
It's short
Whoa.
name, but I just go by Y.
Okay. Well, before I became a devotee, my name was Mzazi, Mzazi. I always wondered, what are they going to name me? Yeah. So I'm happy you're going to be here. I look for you February 1st. After that, we'll all look for you.
Yes, thank you for this wonderful class. And I
Right.
really also appreciate having the PowerPoint and you sharing and engaging us in our eyes and our ears into this service. It definitely gets me up and fulfills me this rising. So I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Right. Well, have a beautiful day. Why that sun that's over you is definitely Krishna's energy, guiding you too. So yeah, you just see Krishna in everything. There's a little game that this devotee taught me the other day, and he said, just look at something and, like a cup, like some water, anything, and just see Krishna in that. So start seeing Krishna every. I mean, I know you do because you're in this class, so you're seeing Krishna already by coming to Srimad Bhagavatam class. So thank you very much, and thank you for your kind encouragement. So we'll look forward to seeing you.
Yes, Haribol.
Hari Hari. Haribol, Haribol, dear devotees. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.